Greetings and welcome to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Norris. Thank you for being here. This week, my guest is Gabriel Welch. Gabriel is a painter, a graphic novel creator, and kind of an all-around storyteller through art, through words. He also, I don't know if you would call him a graffiti artist, but he writes with spray paint on walls. So yeah, let's throw that on the list of things that Gabriel does. He's a multi-talented individual, and I was happy to have him on the show. Gabriel probably puts more volume of paint and completed paintings out than anyone I know, or maybe even know of. Off the top of my head right now, I can't really think of him. So he's definitely a prolific artist. If you don't already follow him, I imagine many of you do, but if you don't, go check him out at Omeka_1, the word one, on Instagram. And in this episode, we talk a lot about his backstory, growing up in his family, very unique situation there. We talk a bit about graphic novels, storytelling, some of his influences outside art. We get into social media quite a bit, and we talk about putting down some vices, going from partying at festivals to relatively sober most of the time. Found it a very interesting and inspiring talk, and I hope you guys do too. I'm recording this on Thursday, so no new patrons this week, but if you would like to support this podcast, head on over to patreon.com/artsyaf podcast. There you will find out information on how to keep this show going. It's a labor of love, but at the same time, it also helps a lot to be receiving financial support from my dear, dear listeners. And if you don't feel called to do that or cannot do that, obviously I'm going to keep putting out the audio for free. But if you want to help, go ahead and share it. Go ahead and give us a review. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Go check out our YouTube page where we have clips of the full video, which are available to Patreon subscribers only at this point. So do all those things. Give me a leg up here, baby. Anyway, let's jump right into it. Here is Gabriel Welch. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound great.
Cool.
Hell yeah, man.
Got my water, got my coffee.
Got your sketchbook.
I got Write the Future right here.
That's,
yeah.
Let's jump in right there.
Okay.
What do you think? You've been writing a little more?
Yeah. I've been writing ideas, some stories, ideas, just getting into constructing, I want to do a giant saga of sorts.
Hell yeah.
But I've been really just enjoying writing down, just simple stories, like small stories.
Yeah.
Maybe doing comics that are just like one issue,
Mm-hmm.
like Ryobi 1 could be a one issue comic, or Frost, the story of this merman that, is dealing with some heavy shit.
Dude, it's got to be heavy under the ocean.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the story of Frost is he's this like merman character. He's swimming in the warm oceans, like around Lemuria, lost civilization.
Yeah.
And he keeps finding himself in like shallow, warm waters, and it's fun. All the merfolk are having fun, but he's kind of an outsider. Like Shaman's kind of an outsider to the tribe, and
right.
So he's like, man, I just don't feel like I'm part of this society,
Yeah.
And so he goes deep under the water, and he starts to go north, where he hears this like song, like there's a song that's coming from the north, he thinks. And so he starts swimming deep, and he hears a song deep, and then then he hears a song above, and so he goes above the water, and at some point he gets eaten by this giant sea monster, and he's in the belly of this beast.
Yeah.
He feels the acid in the stomach about to just like eat him alive, and then he's like, wait, no, this isn't how I go down, and he starts to claw his way through the belly of the beast and out of the throat, and he's he comes out and there's a giant storm, and then the storm clears, and then the clouds part, and he sees like a star, and it's the North Star. So he keeps going north, you know, he keeps listening to the song. He gets all the way up to the Arctic, and he like doesn't know where this song is coming from, and he starts to just feel like he's covered in icicles and frost, and he's up in the Arctic Circle, and he's like, man, where is that? And then he realized like the song's coming from within himself, and he starts singing the song. And so as he sings, you know, so he's this blue merman named Frost, and then, you know, the throat chakra is blue, so it's kind of like exercising your voice more, and telling stories and being more of a storyteller. And so then he discovers like that beautiful angelic creature is in himself, you know, and he's got all the love he needs that he was kind of looking for within the society of merfolk, and he's like finally free, you know, just to like go swim anywhere in the world. And I think I relate to that character as just kind of like love makes you feel cold after the warmth of it all, you know.
Yeah.
You're just alone and cold and icy, and it's like every now and again somebody will come and kind of thaw the frost, but then if something happens then you're frost again, you know. So kind of like going back in between this like golden warmth of being in love to like the frost of being alone, and finding that like warmth and love within yourself, and then you're just like, okay, I'm having fun, I'm on this adventure by myself again, and like I'm okay, like everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're free.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Did that come to you all at once, like, or did you start with the idea of the dichotomy of like being with someone and then being alone, and the difference between that?
Yeah, I think it came from just this trip, you know, coming out here, being heartbroken, being on the road alone again, and having all these warm, beautiful, golden, sunny memories, you know, and then you kind of just get into this place of like, man, it's hard to find that warmth and love within yourself, you know. You kind of get cold and jaded, and then you might run into somebody that makes you feel really warm again for a second, but then as soon as that dissipates, you're back into the frost and feeling the cold, you know. So
yeah,
I've been really like kind of transitioning through different characters and modalities, you know, like the Red Ninja days was all about exploring like passion and my evil side and the darkness, you know, and kind of just integrating and doing all that shadow work. And then, you know, recently like getting back into like the Alpha 9 and this like angelic transcendent energy, and I'm like, yeah, you know, because the green is the love, you know, like the heart chakra is all green and growth, and
totally.
And then yeah, I moved from LA up to Nevada City area, and then I started to just swim in the water every day. And there's like, and my friend Sachi's like, yeah, there's this water dragon that lives out here, and then so then I started feeling myself become like this blue water dragon character, you know. And then so Frost kind of was related to the blue water dragon, and beginning to be more of a vocal storyteller. And I think it'd be cool, I don't know what I'm going to call this saga, but it'd be nice to call it The Storyteller, just something very simple, you know.
Yeah.
And that gives me free range to tell a lot of stories. And then it might be nice to just do little one-off, like Frost could just be a simple one issue comic, you know.
Yeah.
Ryobi 1 about this ninja character, you know, based off of the Tool line, could just be a one issue. Rigid, he could be another, you know, kind of enemy of Ryobi and the Husky, and, you know, just all these characters, and create a whole story based off of a Tool line. And then later, I think, I mean, George Lucas didn't write Star Wars as his first movie, so maybe not putting all the pressure on starting the storyteller as your epic saga first.
Right.
Like maybe do some one-offs and just get your feet wet doing simple one-issue comics. You know, that way you can start and finish something, and then you have that confidence under your belt. You're like, okay, I can make a comic.
Yeah.
Now I can make this comic. And then when you're ready, you can
get rolling.
You can make the epic graphic novels and a series of stories, you know, that all tie together. And then you can also bring in, you know, you can have these characters that you're developing and put them into the whole story, you know. So you have these little mini stories and separate issues, and then when you come up with the whole thing, it's like now you've kind of built all these separate subworlds that come together and create this whole other world, you know,
Totally.
like the Neptunian world.
Do you feel like all these kind of like disparate characters, like all these different characters, are just like facets of like your own being,
I
or
think
like
so, yeah.
maybe just humanity in general? Because like we can find, if you know yourself, you know the world, right? That kind of whole thing.
Right. I think a lot of my characters are very much based off of myself or things I'm going through.
Hmm.
But now I'm finding that there's been a lot of people in my life that really inspire me. They're characters. So
Yeah.
I mean, as far as digging for characters, like I have all these characters like within my life, you know.
Hmm.
So I'm really working to kind of put together, you know, a whole story of these cool characters that I've come across, or challenging characters, you know, villainous characters that you're kind of fighting against.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's cool to like come up with the characters outside of yourself, because sometimes you can get a little too, you know, withdrawn and introverted within
Sure.
yourself. And if every character is yourself, then your world is just going to be full of you, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, start bringing in different characters
New
to
energy.
help you to grow, or help you to be, you know, help you work together and find allies, you know, as you go along.
Yeah. Well, Gabriel Welch.
Yeah.
That's an introduction.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, you're a painter and aspiring graphic novelist, and
Yeah.
I've been loving all the characters you've been doing lately, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, super cool to watch, and I love it when artists like expand out into new territory
Yeah.
that they haven't really, or that they maybe always wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, sometimes we get locked in these cycles where like if you're selling a certain type of painting, like
Right.
what works, and you just got to kind of keep churning them out. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just a huge fan of people like expanding their repertoire.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that for sure.
Yeah, I just went from doing that Frost character, which for me just is helping me, you know, deal with some deep, heavy emotional wounds. And then, you know, the other day, I got into doing like the Lone Star Drifter, and I'm like, yeah, like the lone cowboy that's just kind of drifting through life. And you know, that's mixing graffiti with cowboy country culture, you know.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's not really something I see very mixed together, but
Right.
I like to just really melt things together, you know. Like you can do, I'm a kind of a southwestern artist a lot of times. Like I
Right.
like painting desert scenes and cowboys, and you know, just like my mind is kind of a simple southwestern artist, but I don't really know how to define what I do, you know. Some people
Yeah.
are like, you do this thing,
I was
and
gonna,
you do that thing, and like I do so many things that I don't know how you would really put me into any box. And I've always kind of escaped boxes.
Yeah.
And so when
that's
I hang
great.
out with people, they're trying to put me into some category, like, oh, you're the visionary artist, or you're a graffiti artist, or this guy, or
Yeah.
and I'm always like escaping any kind of packaging, branding, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, I think most artists, even if they somehow pigeonhole themselves,
Yeah.
don't like to be pigeonholed.
Right.
You know, like the whole like artistic spirit is to sort of reject labels,
Yeah.
reject category,
Mm-hmm.
and like blend it all together, like you were saying. And I was actually talking with Michael Garfield about this last week, and he refuses to make like separate Instagram accounts for like, you know, he makes music, he does like speaking and writing, and he
Yeah.
makes art, and like he made the point that when you narrowly define like who you are,
Yeah.
you actually become like an easier target to be like advertised to, or to be like swayed into like some sort of like political ideology or whatever
I
it
can see
is
that. Yeah.
people are trying to like push out there in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was actually going to ask you, just as a prompt,
Yeah.
like how would you define the art that you make? But I think that
Well, that's
what I'm
interesting, because
hearing.
I was thinking about that, you know, during lockdown. I remember I was like, man, I really like doing erotic art too, but sometimes that can like just be so different from everything else I'm doing that it's like, do I create a separate account? Like, do I create an OnlyFans for just my erotic illustrations and have people sub to my OnlyFans page, or
yeah.
like, and I don't really know. Like I've always kind of put that out there, and I'm sure it throws a wrench into like my trajectory, or if some gallery's watching me, they're like, wow, he does really good work, and then he goes all the way this way and does some
Yeah,
erotic like ice cream sluts, and then he goes over here, and
yeah.
kind of hard to like. I know that galleries kind of look for like a consistency within your work, and
Sure.
if you want to be that artist, then you got to be consistent and stay kind of in a theme. And as soon as you lose that theme, then I don't know, might lose that. I don't know.
What do you think that's all about? Like, is it our culture? Is it just like people don't like to be surprised, or
I think they like to see you doing something, and they like to see it change and evolve, but not stray too far from that path. And
yeah.
and if you do, it just shows that maybe you're scattered, or you're not organized enough to follow through with any one series. But I find that I'll start a structure series, and then I'm like, oh well, that was fun, and then the dark series, and then a deep underwater series, and
Yeah.
I don't really know how to like be excited about doing one thing repetitiously. So
Sure.
I might not be the most famous artist in this lifetime because of that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because I need to express myself, and it would suck to be like an abstract artist that doesn't get to express his emotions anymore, because everything's got to be
Right.
shapes and cubes and blocks, and you can't really steer out of that. And you're like, oh, I just want to say something, but I can't now, because I got this gallery that's really interested in everything I'm doing, and if I do this, then I'll lose that. And so,
Do you ever make work that you don't share with anybody? Do you have stuff that's like just for you?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And I have mountains of sketchbooks. I think back before Instagram, everything was just for me.
Sure. Yeah.
And occasionally some friends looking through my sketchbooks. So it's interesting having like an online ability to like show people everything.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I don't want to show people this, or I don't want to show them this. Like, this maybe not good enough to show, or this is too deeply personal to show. And it just takes being more vulnerable. I think even just to write like a story, or associate yourself as like a merman. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I want to admit to being a merman, or like that's not as cool as being a ninja or this. And so yeah, I like creating characters that kind of force me to be a little more open and vulnerable, and like just raw and honest about the way I'm feeling. And I think that'll help people too, like reading a story about discovering self-love or something that could help somebody else. It's kind of like feeling fucking cold and lost, and
Yeah. I think stories are the best way to convey that too.
yeah,
Because it, people take it on as a fiction, but inside the fiction, there's like just a plethora of truth. you know?
right.
And it's like, in a way, it's like, it cuts through someone just telling you that like, you should love yourself.
Yeah,
Because like people like hear that and it doesn't exactly stick. They're like, yeah, I should.
yeah, a
But,
little meme that like reminds you to love yourself or something. And yeah, like a story could definitely get you deep into the emotions of feeling
Yeah.
that cold, being alone and lost in the world, and then finding everything you need within yourself.
Yeah.
And that can be summed up in a meme with a picture, but a story that conveys that is going to be fun for me to tell and to draw, and
For sure. Yeah.
because I mean, before I was a painter, I always thought, as a kid, my dad sold comics, and I was like, I'm gonna be a comic book artist. Like, my heroes are like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane,
Yeah.
Eric, and so I look at all the comic masters as like, dude, these guys, they're able to animate characters frame by frame, show the expression, and if they're working with one character, they're able to keep that character in a continuity of, it looks like the same character from frame to frame. And I was like, that just blew my mind. And like
Right.
the intense deadlines and pressures that all these comic masters are under, I'm just like, this is a new renaissance, of storytelling frame by frame. So that's always been something I've been trying to wrap my head around. And like, I haven't really done much work to like master hands and anatomy, and I'm working towards that. Like I think just jumping into doing comics. A lot of comic book artists, they weren't the best in the first when they started drawing Spider-Man.
Right.
Frank Miller was doing Spider-Man and didn't really have a style. It kind of looked like Kubrick style or something, and then over time his style really started to develop and become something else, and he wrote really gritty, murderous fucking tales of like, whoa, this is deep and adult.
Yeah.
Sandman, like Neil Gaiman writes really beautifully, but the comic artists weren't really up to his level of storytelling. And then I think he came out with a book. It was a newer Sandman book, and it was a graphic novel, and it just blew my mind because the illustrations finally matched with the storytelling, and so I really want to have something that like has deep storyline with really beautiful art, and then everything I've learned in painting, I can do like a frame, of like pencil, inks, Copic colors. I could do pencil to ink to digital coloring.
Mm-hmm.
I could do like you open a splash page and it can just be a watercolor page. You could go to this page and I have painted scenes throughout it because I know how to paint and I understand architecture, and just like throughout painting I've learned color. And when you draw, a lot of comic book artists that did like buildings, they didn't know how to do graffiti onto the building, so their graffiti kind of looked a little like toyish,
Yeah.
And so now you're able to like draw, illustrate buildings, put your own graffiti onto it, and like tell a real rich story,
Yeah.
And you're able to write it, illustrate it, color it. You're fully in charge of every step along the way.
Would you consider collaborating with someone?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. Is like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, man, that's a lot.
yeah, I was talking to Jake the other day. I was like, it'd be cool to like have friends come in and like do, Jake did some cool 2-point perspective grid, and that becomes part of some, psychedelic trip into this other world. And you have your other friend like Steven Cruz or, Seth, or anybody that wants to kind of jump in and like add to this story. That would be really cool to like open that up to other artists to work with you on stories,
But you'd want the story to be...
Well, I think the storyteller would be kind of hard to open that up, but maybe do some trial runs, like do some like Apex collective comics, where it's like you're working with more psychedelic abstract themes, and some stories that are like, I don't know, just talk with your friends about like, what story should we do together, what story do you guys want to tell? And then later on, like, you could do comics with your friends, because maybe you don't want to ink everything, maybe you don't want to be the digital colorist, because I just want to do the pencils, and I just want to do the storytelling and the pencils. Or you could even run into another writer, that's like, yo, I love what you're doing, but like I could help like write this a little deeper and clean up, some of your writing, because you're not obviously always writing, you're painting and doing this and that.
Right,
so it'd be cool to open that up and start to collaborate in comic worlds, and then start doing comic conventions and kind of get away from festivals and the psychedelic community and start getting into like comic culture, So steering.
That's exciting.
Merging these different worlds, like. Yeah.
So I also wanted to, like, speaking of stories, I wanted to ask you, like, just kind of like your origin story in terms of like wanting to be an artist. When did it all start for you?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was thinking about this earlier today when I was hiking, and I was like, when I was a kid, I don't remember ever not drawing, like, so as a kid, like, my mom, she's a clown. My dad, he did like sign painting and come out to the garage, he's working on his stuff, and so I was always just drawing, doodling, and so I think I've just always drawn, and then coming and seeing my dad, working on stuff, and just growing up in this kind of crazy circus environment, but it was also like, it seems really fun, but it was also really tough, because my mom, when my dad left, she's just like a single mom raising all of us kids, and she's clowning is just as like hustle, you know, like.
So she's doing like birthday parties.
Yeah, more like just hour-long birthday parties. But my mom, she was like in film, like in a theater, you know. So
okay, nice.
So it was more like she had this whole theatrical presentation to her clowning, and later on, like a lot of clowns that do parties, like they come out and bring games and stuff, but like they're not really putting on a theatrical performance. So
yeah, it's more like busking with face paint on.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
So my mom being like, you know, my mom and dad, when they were together, like they were doing like clowning at the church, you know, and they would do like puppet shows, and my dad would like draw believers bucks for the kids to like cash in for prizes if they could memorize scripture. So back then, man, church was like a really kind of psychedelic place. Like my dad did all these crazy paintings of like trees with like happy smiley faces on it. It felt very like acidy, you know, in church. And so that was cool. So I think that's kind of like where I got into drawing, was just like, you know, just doodling and drawing all the time. And my mom was like Tooter the Clown. My sister's Scooter the Clown. I got named Doodles the Clown, obvious for reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
My brother was Pokey the Clown. My sister Rainbow. I have another little sister. I don't think she ever got a clown name, but she's definitely a clown, you know?
Yeah.
And so talking to my mom the other day, and she's like, you know, when you go to festivals, like bring a bunch of clown noses and like, you know, carry on this clown tradition and legacy of like clown heritage. And a lot of the clowns are starting to die away. And my mom's like, dude, clowns just want to make the world a happy, fun place, you know?
Right, yeah.
And clowns have been villainized and demonized throughout, you know, from the It to like Space Clowns from Hell to like American Horror Story, where there's
never
like,
heard of Space Clowns from Hell.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh God, you gotta watch that.
Yeah.
I mean, so
sounds like Snakes on a Plane or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, pretty cool. I think it's cool too. I mean, I understand that how you can make clowns scary, but like, you know, it's weird people saying they have clown phobias when it's like, have they ever really met a real clown, or is it just like, they have this Hollywood idea of like scary clowns from hell, you know, like, And so my mom was just like, dude, like, and when I was at this last festival, I do a lot of face painting, and like that kind of comes from like my mom always painting everybody's faces. So like, I just think that brings a lot of joy to the world, just painting everybody that wants to be painted, like painting their colors or their aura or their clothes, and just giving them this like colorful lines of color. And so that's something that kind of comes with the clown tradition.
Yeah.
And so I was at this festival, and I started putting on like some white clown makeup and like a red nose, and I kind of felt like a crazy Joker, you know what I mean? Like turning into like a psychopath. But really, like, I was there and I was making everybody laugh. And my friend, and she was like, dude, you're the sacred clown, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I like that idea.
Okay, so I want to bring like a little stage to festivals and start putting on like clowning shows where like, I'm a comedian. I like to rap. I like to do poetry, dance, sing, perform, you know, like I'm a performer. So when I'm painting, I'm performing in paint, but it'd be nice to have like that old school circus feel with like the freaks painted on all the different wood boards. There's like, you know, the crab man or the mustache woman or the giant, you know? And so you could have this cool like freak show thing at the festival where people can even, I could even have friends like dress up like the freaks and come out and like perform with me, and like have a stage too for people that want to do some stand-up comedy, or they want to participate, because festivals don't really have a lot of like participation. It's like you buy the ticket, you come, you watch the music, and a lot of times the artists are the ones that, you know, we're not getting appreciated.
We're kind of like the go-between, right?
Yeah, we're there all weekend, like entertaining people, talking with everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And the producer DJ, he gets to just fly in and, you know, plug and play and go back to a hotel. So he's not really there to like entertain people and get to know people. And I think artists are really like, we get undervalued so hard, you know, and like they don't even want to give us electricity sometimes for one light bulb, you know. It's like, dude, come on, like recognize how much like how much beauty and love we bring to these things. And like, so my friend Dave Platford, who I just moved up there with, he's really gung-ho about like, let's create, you know, artist festivals where it's like artists are the headliners, and if you have artists as headliners and music as secondary, not to put music down, but also not to have music as the main drive and attraction, then you start to bring out people that are interested in like learning to paint and to coming and hanging out and doing workshops, and not just coming to see like this headliner and, you know, getting super high and just like, you know,
I feel like that'd be a more, just a slightly older crowd.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, I don't know, because
maybe not.
I did a Great North Fest, and there was so many artists in that lineup that this lady from Canada came down, and she's like, I came here just for the artists on this lineup, you know, not even music. And I was like, nice. So that's cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, one thing I wanted to mention before we jump back into your story, it's in line with stories and novels and stuff. I want to tell you about The Name of the Wind.
Okay.
It's a great novel. Yeah. You should check it out.
That's why I got this
handy
dandy notebook right here.
Name of the Wind, or the Name of the Wind. And it's the first in a trilogy, and so far only 2 books have come out. But would you recommend it on like paperback or? I listened to it.
You listened to it?
Yeah, but I've listened to it twice.
I have Audible, and I'm really bad at, like, I have all these credits stacking up. I got my mom on it, so she listens to it way more than I do. Yeah, so I just kind of pay for it so my mom
You'll
can
love
listen
it
to
because
The Name of the Wind.
Yeah, the characters, the main character in the beginning, his whole family is like traveling performers.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about like your dad's a painter, your mom was clowning, doing theatrical stuff, it really reminded me of this novel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I just think you'd really like it. And so that leads into another question, and then I do want to remember to get back to kind of like your story.
Okay, yeah.
What novels or stories like have influenced you? What do you really like? What's your thing when you're looking at a story?
I've really enjoyed reading Neil Gaiman's work.
Yeah.
He's really methodical, poetic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, who else is a really good writer? Man, that's a tough one. I think that I've been reading Dune.
Hell yeah.
That's a really good book. Kind of taking me a while to get through it, you know?
Yeah.
And I keep like kind of losing my place in it and jumping back into this crazy world, you know, where it's just like, let's see. Man, I feel like I'm drawing a blank for... Oh, I used to love reading Chuck Palahniuk's books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like Fight Club, and I read a lot of his stuff, and then it got a little too like dark, and I had to get out of that.
Yeah.
Robinson Crusoe is a really cool book as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just this, you know, drift away character that just is out on this island by himself. Like, I really related to that for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a lot of blanks because I know all these books, and then I have to like remember these authors' names and
before you say the title, because you don't want to forget the author.
Yeah, I'm just I love George Lucas's world building abilities. Just coming up with vast worlds and characters, and he was super inspiring as a kid. Yeah, there's probably a lot of really great writers out there that I don't know about, or you know.
Yeah. So another book, just real quick before I forget, the Dark Tower series. I know you said that.
Oh yeah, I used to read a lot of Stephen King too.
Yeah,
He was one of those characters that I read a lot of his books, and I never read the Dark Tower series, and
I'm in the middle of that right now. So yeah, anybody listening too, you should check it out. It's really good stuff. It's kind of like Western meets sci-fi fantasy.
Oh, dude, that's right up like my current alley right now. So, yeah, the Dark Tower series.
Yeah. So I want to get back to like growing up in a household full of creative people.
Yeah.
'Cause your brother paints too.
Yeah, my brother paints. He's an artist.
And so
my sister too, Sarah.
Oh, nice.
She's an artist, and she's been doing some digital stuff. I know my brother, he's been going to school and doing more 3D animation,
Yeah.
or something. And my little sister, she just started doing watercolors. And
Nice.
then my niece has been painting. She's been working on paintings a lot too, so it's kind of cool to see, this lineage of artists. Like my dad, I think he was like the first artist in the family to kind of just be an artist, and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
drifted away from his family and was just like, I'm so glad that he did that because, just like as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to be an artist. My dad, he was probably like, I don't know if you want to be an artist because artists
it's
are
tough.
poor and we're not,
Yeah.
I'm not thriving, so I don't want you to be a poor artist like me.
So you went to high school, right? So let's jump there, I guess. Are you taking any art classes or anything at this point, or?
Yeah, so ninth grade, I remember they finally, you could take an art class, and so I was kind of a dropout student. I didn't really like doing anything else in school. And so sometimes I'd ditch the whole day and go build little stick villages under a tree. And then once art class came around, I would go to school for one
Nice.
class and then ditch the rest of the day and smoke weed and hang out with friends. And like, wasn't really, I don't know why. I just didn't feel like I belonged in high school, and I didn't have the money to go to dances and look good, and I had really shitty clothes.
Yeah.
Like you kind of get stuck in being a stoner because you're of your class, like you're not really able to hang out and go snowboard and do all the things these kids are doing,
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
were you growing up in California?
yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Visalia and
Okay.
Farmersville.
Okay.
Like pretty much like it's a mostly Hispanic town. A lot of immigrants come there to, pick fruit and stuff. And like, that was crazy because you're one of the only white kids in this,
Yeah.
the town, And, but yeah, a lot of my friends are Mexican there. And then when I moved to Arizona, I'd go to a high school, had to repeat the ninth grade. And then like the Navajo, they kind of befriended me. The white kids were a little like kind of uppity, and I didn't really fit into like the high school culture. So all my friends were kind of just like dropouts or, just kind of like the
Right, yeah.
undesirables or something,
Did you end up finishing high school or?
I went to a continuation school. So I got
Nice.
my like what GED or what do you call that?
Yeah, GED, I think.
So
Yeah.
I did finish kind of, in some way.
So what were you doing after that? You'd already started painting at this point, right? Or?
No, I didn't start painting. I was after that, I think I don't know, when I was a kid, I had like a paper route. So I would fold papers at 4 a.m, go out, throw papers, go collect the money every week or something. And then about 15, I got into like polishing diesel trucks along like I-40 in Winslow, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like buffing diesel truck rims, and then I got my first job at 16 in a kitchen in Winslow. So I started doing dishes and then moved up to like prep cook, and then by like 18 I was like the head line cook at this restaurant, So
Nice.
I just thought kitchens were kind of my life, for a long time, and I thought I was going to be like a chef for a while, and then got into doing like construction, or like I did fiberglass like installation.
Oh, wow.
That was really weird because you're going in and like putting all this fiberglass up, spraying fiberglass. You're getting like just shreds of fiberglass in your eyes and fingers and nose, and like.
Were you not wearing protection or anything?
Well, you can, but I mean, at the end of the day, just like there's just so much of it. Just like even if you have, mask and this on, it's still getting
seeps
into
in there.
everything. Yeah. And the fiberglass, it sticks into your skin. Like
Yeah.
you can't really wash it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I put it's not the same obviously, but all this insulation in, and it would still.
Oh yeah, the R30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like very familiar.
Oh yeah, I know.
But yeah, I vaguely know what that's like a little bit. So when did you start painting, and like what precipitated you to really take on the mantle of like being an artist? Was there an event, or did you was it like the song you were talking about with Frost?
I think looking back, one of the last jobs I had was working at Taco Bell for like 2.5 years for like $5 something an hour,
Yeah.
And every day I'd go out and like smoke a cigarette on my break and like, try to draw. And just like when you're working, you just don't really have time to really draw and do art,
Right, right.
And so I started going, I think I was working at Borders at that point, and I went to like this festival called Earth Dance back in like 2003 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to little raves, and so going to a festival was the first time seeing like artists, at this thing, and I brought out sketchbooks, and so then I just started doing like renegade live painting, I think I started painting in like 2003, so I was like 23 years old, kind of like late, but I've been illustrating my whole life, and so painting. I started doing graffiti and painting when I moved from Arizona out to California, and I just realized like there's this whole culture going on here. Like there's raves and there's this and there's that, and I missed out on growing up in Arizona, and I think that graffiti and painting, like Van Gogh is probably my first painting teacher besides my father. Like my dad did window painting, so
Right.
I learned a lot from him, taking a foam brush and doing like little pine needles and painting Christmas windows and signs and like buffaloes. And so my dad was my first kind of art teacher, and then Captain Mark from PBS, Captain Mark and the Draw Squad, he would come out and show you how to draw boxes and how to shade them. And Bob Ross, I wasn't really into painting then, so like drawing was more my thing. And then Van Gogh, like when I first started painting like impressionistically is just it's my go-to. Like that's how I start everything. It's just like color, form, light, shadow, just do that first, and then later I'll kind of expand or clean that up if I want to. But so impressionism kind of was my gateway into painting, and I started painting like downtown, the Fox Theater. I like painting like blurry lights and kind of recreating like what Van Gogh might look at these blurry lights. These neon lights were my first thing. I was really into painting, and I think that painting at like little house shows, like raves and stuff,
Right.
it really helped me to like, I don't know, just like you're able to like really relax because you're at a party, everyone's having fun, you're chilled out, you're rolling, you're painting, and then everybody's watching me paint, and so I learned how to just like. As I'm painting, just like people are watching me, so how to just keep making marks and just pretend like I know exactly what I'm doing and never hesitate, So I've learned through people watching me, just don't ever hesitate and just keep going forward. If you fuck up, that's fine, but at least you didn't have to sit there and look back and contemplate and make a little mark. And these aren't very it's not very exciting to watch somebody hesitate, And so I don't know, it just kind of forced me into this like real expressionistic like action painter where I'm like, this is fun to watch, and I really wanted to create like this show of like, so when people are watching me, they're like, wow, look at this guy go. It's just boom, boom, boom.
So you kind of took like your dad's like sign making thing and your mom's
my
like
dad,
theatrical thing. And,
yeah,
like,
my dad, he's real expressionist where he does like a lot of quick loose lines, you know what I mean? And just like kind of capture like the vibration and the feeling in that, and like not making it so perfect. So that's a lot of the way I paint too, is just real energetic, and I want to show these energetic lines and not really clean that up too much. And I think that the vibration of the painting, comes through. But I also do love to like get super hyper rendered on things, and just be able to kind of go back and forth between, crazy chaos and clean, orderly,
You're like one of the most prolific artists that I know of. Do you think?
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the improvisational style is closer to like some kind of source of creativity?
Yeah, I think too, like if you're working that fast, for me, I find that I don't have time to really think too far ahead because I'm going so fast forward that the like source is just channeling through me, and I'm just getting out of the way. Things are moving through me so fast, and I don't really have time to be like, oh, maybe don't do that. It's just like it's just flooding through me, and I'm like just watching it happen, kind of just like I'm just barely like 1 millisecond ahead of what's about to happen, and it's really entertaining for me to watch too, because I'm also just like just right there, like whoa, okay, whoa, shit, whoa, like holy shit, like I'm also just as kind of wowed by the process as I'm doing it, because I don't really sometimes know where it's going because I'm just going so fast.
Yeah, and you just got that from performing in front of people?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a pressure of just, I don't know, people watching me, and I'm like, oh boy, like I don't know, there was something about having people behind me watching me just made me want to be able to move really quick. And I think too, like graffiti is a very fast art form. Graffiti, you're just scribbling your name on a box, and you got to slap the marker back in your pocket, walk up the street. So a lot of the speed comes from just like high levels of stress, trying to get out there, paint a wall. And so when you're painting a wall and you got to fill stuff in, it's very fast and loose. And that whole thing is in my brain too, of just like under pressure, like whether it's the pressure of painting live or painting illegally, you're just like under a lot of pressure. You're under family pressure, you're under societal pressure, like you feel like you're just going to explode. And I think the spray can is the best way to release that pressure, because it's
literally pressurized. Yeah.
So you're just able to just.
So would you say that like making art is just kind of like a pressure valve to let all that out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pressure valve release, and it's an emotional release.
And you paint like that even when you're not in front of people?
Yeah, I paint really fast. Also, I can get really zen and like focus and like zero in. So it's good to have the fast, and it's also good to like know how to just chill out and just focus and just sit down and paint. I like to stand and paint a lot, but yeah, it's good to go back and forth, like just be able to hyper render stuff, and then be able to be really loose, because some of my friends, they get a little too hyper refined and they don't know how to be loose, and some of my friends are so loose they don't really know how to get refined. So trying to balance out those two things, and find that I love seeing hyper rendered stuff, and then also too, it's like sometimes that's not very fun, just sit there and render cubes or something. It's like, damn, I just want to just break out.
Yeah. So you've been painting at parties and festivals since around 2003. How many paintings do you think you've done?
Yeah,
if you had to guess.
Dude, I was just talking to Sells was just asking me this, and then Johnny too. I was talking to him, I was like, dude, I don't know how many paintings I've done in my life. I mean, maybe over 3,000, maybe. I don't really know how to count,
Yeah.
Because I paint them, I sell them, they've gotten lost, they're stacking up in piles. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe 5,000. It's hard to put a number on it, but if I even look just at the paintings I've started in this trip here, it's like like probably 25 paintings, just like in the time that I've been here, and from the art workshop to here, that's 25 paintings in like a couple weeks or something, and so you times that times like 2003, how many years I've been painting? Like 18 years?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah. So, back then too, I just was really just like hustling paintings to pay rent, so you had to become very unattached to your work and be like, okay, I don't want to go back to Taco Bell or doing installation or any of this. Like, I have to make this work.
Right.
And so I'll do anything I can to keep this dream afloat. Sometimes I'll just do a bunch of paintings that I know I have to let go of. And I have paintings that I'm working on for over a decade, that are for myself. I'm not really trying to sell that too quick. And if I do, I'll just put a super high price tag on it. So if you really want that painting, it's going to cost you a lot to take it away from me.
Totally.
And that's cool, because then
Absolutely.
you don't have to stress out on selling your soul works, you know? And I mean, everything is your soul. It's like, even a little frog painting is like, you know, I put everything into that, you
Right.
know, and then but I also have the intention to let it go right away, you know?
But you also didn't put 10 years of everything
Yeah,
into
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So I honestly like to paint things for people that, you know, they're artists that can barely kind of afford an original painting, and I like to have little things that people can afford and auction stuff off and
Mm-hmm.
make things affordable. But also too is I like to make things that take a long time, and I don't want it to be affordable.
Right.
I hope it's not going to be affordable, because that's 11 years of my life into that thing, and I mean off and on, you know.
Sure.
And so yeah.
So going to all these festivals over all these years, I know for me, I've only been painting at festivals since about 2012, and that's 9 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I think I'm starting to get a little burnt out on it, and I think at some point I was probably, intaking lots of substances and not sleeping very
yeah.
well. Has it taken a toll on you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What happened is, like, you know, back at the Oregon eclipse, that was kind of my that was my wake up of, like, I was doing back-to-back festivals and just over consuming everything. And as an artist, everything comes to you, it's free, it's just
Right.
like, here, have this, have that. And I really started to notice that, like, my relationships were just like, from this festival to this festival. You might go to this festival, eat a bunch of ecstasy, fall in love, go to this other festival, eat more ecstasy, fall in love.
Yeah.
And then your heart is just like too open, your mind is too open everywhere you go. And I saw the damage that was being caused to me, but also the damage I was causing to people that I was falling in love with, and then not following through with that. And just, you know, going from like, oh wow, this is person, and then, oh wow, this person. And, you know, you're just getting way lost in the sauce. And so after Oregon Eclipse, I was like, dude, if you wanna have a healthy relationship, then you need to learn to just be sober, you know. So after New Year's, I remember making a vow just to, like, be sober for. I was sober for a few years, and
Mm-hmm.
that helped me, because I was still doing festivals, but now they're not really that fun. I'm just there as like a vendor,
Yeah.
and I'm still live painting, but I just feel like it's a business thing, and I'm just like doing this thing. And
Yeah.
when you're sober, you're not really part of the festival. Like, you feel so outside of it. When you're high, you're feeling like you're part of it, you know.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, recently, like, I stopped being sober and let myself, you know, like, I don't really know if I should be sober for the rest of my life, or if
Sure.
I definitely shouldn't go that hard for the rest of my life.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
And so now I'm kind of finding that middle balance of, like, I don't really drink alcohol that much anymore. I just found that I just don't like the hangover. I don't like the
Hangovers get
I don't like
worse
the
and worse every
sloppiness.
year. Yeah.
My thing is, I like to be focused. I like to have crazy cool ideas. So anything that helps with, like, you know, psychedelics is still a really cool tool.
It's not as hard on the body either.
No, and I find that even doing psychedelics in your own time is much more healing. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you can use a poison, and it can be a medicine in a small amount. You know, or you can do too much medicine and it become a poison. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to learn how to walk that middle ground. And I don't know that like complete sobriety is for me, but I know that I
Right.
do like when I'm sober, you know.
Yeah.
So my sober mind is great. We get a lot of work done. And then party animal, like, there is a coyote in me that needs to come out. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I'll go to something and just let the coyote out. Just go ahead and play, you know.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the 3 days of that, I'm like, whoa, like, I'm ready to go back to being sober, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's not sustainable, you know.
Totally. So do you think that has changed your art at all? Like, getting sober over these past couple years?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like, as I become a little more unsober now, I started to just see, like, how beneficial it was to just take all that time away to kind of reset and kind of refine, like, your purpose and drive in life. Like, do you want to keep doing festivals forever? Is this your thing? Like you've done this so many times, and then after a while of not doing it, you're like, maybe there's other things that you like to do, like hiking and fishing. You might like to go be a hunter, or
Yeah.
like festivals became like this thing where like it felt like I was getting to like travel, but then as soon as I travel, I just get to this festival grounds, and then I really just want to travel the world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like festivals is kind of like a micro travel experience where you're like, I'm traveling somewhere,
But
and
then
then
I'm
you
going
get
to
there,
the spot.
and then you get to the spot, and then you
Yeah.
travel in your mind all weekend.
Yeah.
And so you feel like you've gone somewhere, but at the end of the day, you were in one place the whole weekend, and you're like, dang, like I want to go to to Bali or Thailand or get so yeah, I don't know. I'm a little burnt out on festivals, only because I'm a little burnt out on the way festivals treat me.
There's
Like,
that too. Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah.
burnt.
We
on
could talk
that.
about that.
Yeah.
It's something that I think every festival artist is. We've talked about it over and over and over again. Um, what you kind of mentioned the idea of like having a festival kind of based around artists and artistry.
Yeah. So I'm
what-
really excited to bring a lot of artists together to do a festival where like we're all creative, and we're here to co-create, and
Yeah.
and also too is like I want to get into making music and stuff. So I don't want the musicians to feel like they have to just make music while they're there. They can come hang out and paint with us, and they can share their knowledge about how to make some music with us. So we need to kind of get back into that like symbiotic relationship between music and art, and not make it such a separate thing where it's like artists are down here, music's up here. That's the most important thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, can we start to like remember how powerful artists are, and like not put us down at the bottom of the fucking totem pole? Like
Yeah.
we're we're just not treated very well by festivals. And I understand artists don't sell as many tickets as a producer or whatever, so
Sure.
I get that. But so I'm not really trying to put it off onto these festivals doing it the way I want them to do.
Right. It's
We
not
just have
anybody's
to-
fault, really.
We just have to do it the way we need to do it for ourselves. So let's create festivals that are art focused festivals, and art gatherings where like we're teaching. We have 3 days where we can bring all these artists together, and then we can start sharing ideas and painting together and building walls where we're doing aerosol murals and watercolors and this and yarn art, and just getting the musicians, because I don't know, I was hanging out with Dillard yesterday, and
Nice.
he was gonna Sales was like, yeah, come over and you come set up and spin right here, and he was like, well, actually I have a canvas,
Oh,
and
nice.
so he was wanting to come paint with us. So I'm like, that's cool, it's like
Absolutely.
it's like I want to learn to make music. I want to start rapping and singing, and like
Yeah.
let's get the microphone set up. Let's set up a studio, and because I mean that's kind of hip hop culture where it's like the break dancers are hanging out with the graffiti writers, with the DJs, and it's like we're all intermingling, like, and we're trading off, like, because I mean as hip hop goes, like you want to master the art of break dancing and b-boying and rapping and doing graffiti.
Right.
But at some point it became like rap became this other industry. Graffiti, you can't really make it a mainstream industry, so it's always been on the underground.
Right.
And it once again became separated. Like if you're a b-boy and that's your focus, like you're not as into
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing we were talking about earlier about trying to like put a person into a niche, like
Yeah.
trying to brand a person one way when really we're all like kind of multifaceted
Right, yeah.
people.
So you don't want to be stuck as like, oh, you're the artist, or oh, Dillard's just a musician. And,
Right.
Wait, he wants to paint. Like, let's get him painting. Like,
Right.
I wanna figure out how to make some beats too. Like, let me get in on this. Like, how do we do this? Because I'm a newbie to making music. You're more of a master of that craft. I'm a master of this craft. So let's
It's a skill
cross-pollinate.
trade. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be something that we're going to start focusing on, because out at the property, Sachi, he was really into making music, And then I'm coming out there as an artist, and he's like, whoa, dude, I want to learn how you make art. Like, that looks fun. And I want to make music. And I'm a little like hesitant because I don't feel like I'm the master of making music yet, you know?
Right.
And so you start to get inspired off of each other. And then, you know, now everybody can paint and everybody can make music. And if you have a music idea, you can just go in the studio and start busting out this little beat and then lay down a track and then rap over it. And then now you're making albums, and all of a sudden I have an album dropping next month, you know, instead of just being stuck in the artist box, you know, where you're like, oh yeah, you paint, you go, you do your thing over there, and we make music over here. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Something we got to start doing.
Yeah. It's also a thing too, like for any like younger artists listening, like I don't want to discourage people from like going to paint at festivals, even if it is for, you know, free, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, you got to understand the road ahead, that it's not super sustainable.
Yeah.
Unless like unless you have a big following there that's going to come buy your art. I mean, the galleries do, they do something for us, right? But there is the whole like hierarchy of like musicians at the top, and then painters, and then like I guess like fire performers. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
performers like, even get a little more of the shit into the stick, you know.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're just here to dance around, like, you know, like.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't really know how to work all that out because of ticket sales and what people come out to see. You know,
there's money involved and all that.
So yeah, I mean, when I go to a festival too, it's like I'm there too because I want to hear music, you know, like
sure.
I want to paint to this music because that's what drives me to paint. So like I understand the importance of like headliners pulling people to festivals. So
sure, yeah,
I'm not really trying to put it off on a festival. It's like, oh, they're treating us like shit. Like, hey, sometimes you just want to be at a festival, you know, like
totally.
And you get a free ticket in, and yeah, you're not treated very well, but at least you didn't have to pay to get in, and you get to sell some stuff and paint and, you know, make the festival a really fun, exciting place for other people, and especially other artists. You know, I see artists, they saw me painting at a festival, and years later, like, they're crushing it, you know what I mean? Because they saw that live painting energy,
right.
And
exactly.
then they're like, whoa, I want to do that too. And like,
yeah.
And they kind of got to go down the road of painting at festivals, you know?
Yeah. And you can be successful at it, but it is difficult, you know?
Yeah.
But I think this is something I just thought of, like, I think the atmosphere of like being in a festival makes it seem like, oh, everything's all good and this will be easy. And, you know, I'll definitely sell stuff, you know?
Man.
And like, even me, like some festivals are great and you crush it. And then others you're like, dude, what happened? I thought people liked my artwork.
Yeah, I know.
And so yeah, that's tough, but it happens. So I wanted to ask you, what's your biggest fear as it relates to being an artist?
Well, when I first started painting to survive, I think my biggest fear was just, you know, I used to be really depressed, and my biggest fear was just being out on the streets, homeless, digging up cans out of trash cans to recycle, and just like being just, you know what I mean, like unable to make it as an artist, like, and that was a huge fear for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, still there's some times where I'm just like, wow, how am I creating this life of like, and so like a lot of what I do is like dependent on how hard I work and how hard I hustle. And it's like, I think looking forward in the future, it's like, I'd like to not work as hard as I do into my like 70s or 80s if I make it there, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think art and fear are heavily related because being an artist is just overcoming all the fear, you know, and saying something and then putting it out there to the world and letting them pick it apart and make fun of it and laugh at it or put you down for it or judge you for what you're doing. So, I mean, fear is something you just got to overcome every day. Like, I'm like, oh boy,
Absolutely.
damn, I got to make some money today and I got to post this painting on Instagram, and I don't really want to put myself out there right now, but and I have to though. I have to be like, hey guys, I got this painting for sale, or like you have to address the world all the time, and so that can be like a little, I don't know, cause a little anxiety of like, shit, I don't want to have to address the world today. I just want to like just fall off the map for a month, but then you can't. You're like,
right.
All right, guys, I need to make some money, so here I am. I got this
Do you
thing.
think you're addicted to painting or like making art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, because it's been the only thing that's been there for me, like relationships, love, family, friends. A lot of people let you down and they're not there. They're not able to be there for you. And so art's just like, it's been my constant love, And anytime you go through a heartbreak, you're like, okay, back to painting again and painting these emotions out. And so yeah, art just helps you process everything. And
totally.
I'm
right there with you.
I think it's just, I don't know how people don't make art. I mean, people that
they just don't know it.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like the whole span of your life is kind of like
a
work of art.
I was thinking about that too. Is like sometimes I get a little too focused on these exterior creations when it's like I forget how to like love myself and how much I've grown and transformed and evolved, and my life is an art, like and seeing your life as an art is it's something that's taken me a while to realize. Like, you're creating your life and you're creating yourself, and every time you go through a transformation, you're creating a masterpiece, and it's your life,
Totally.
Like, it's not this painting, or it wasn't this your favorite painting that you've ever done. It's like you are the most insane, intricate, masterpiece you'll ever create.
Actually, yeah.
And then that helps you to tap back into, like, you don't need to have a painting with you or a sketchbook to have value, like to show like, hey, look at this that I do that's outside of myself,
Yeah. I think all artists, maybe at the core, we all want our drawing up on the fridge. We all want to be like validated. It's like everybody uses different things to be validated in their life, and art and creativity is now, like with social media and stuff, like you're getting to put your artwork on the fridge for like however many fans you have or whatever, how many followers you have,
right?
And it can be very addictive. And I think that like there's also that hustle aspect that you were mentioning.
Yeah, that kind of makes you have to be more involved in Instagram and Facebook than you really want to be,
Yeah.
And it sucks because you'll put stuff out, and like, especially Facebook, I just noticed like people just like stop liking a lot of stuff, or what I mean? And I'm like, wow, well, I have 5,000 friends on here, but it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of engagement with people.
I think they intentionally fuck with content creators, right?
I think
because
so too.
They want to keep us on there, and they want to create the illusion that we have to be feeding the machine all the time, or else we're gonna fall off into obscurity forever or some shit like that. And like, I know artists who are like technically way better than I am, right? They have way less followers, but in real life they're crushing it.
Right.
You know? And it's like, it's always nice to just kind of take a step back and realize that, like, the gram it and everything.
Yeah, it's a strange gauge of our self-worth to post something and to see this many likes on something that we're super excited about. We're like, dude, check this out, world. And they're like, And then you're like, all right, so do I go back to painting what everybody like jumps on liking, well, I really like that. And then so you can kind of get stuck in like, oh, well, everybody loves this when I do this, but when I do what I'm passionate about and what I want to do, it's not so loved, So do you keep going down that route even though you're losing all these likes and love and comments or whatever?
I think it's, well, here's the thing about it. It's actually kind of a shitty gauge of like what people actually like, because at any given point, the algorithm or whatever could swing against your favor, and just, I feel like it's totally random. there's this I can't remember the guy's name, but maybe it's like a psychological principle where like if you want to keep it's like what happens in abusive relationships where
Yeah.
like the abuser will randomly reward and punish
Oh yeah, yeah.
the other person in the
All
relation,
right.
and that's exactly what social media
Yeah,
is.
dude. I
And,
feel that.
and it's I don't know. I think it bears. I know I've said that in so many other ways on this podcast before, but it bears fucking repeating because like it
Yeah.
ain't everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think we also like. Tell me what you think about this. Like, I think we also get addicted to the hustle to sort of to feel like we have control, right?
Okay, yeah.
And like we're all sort of afraid of maybe like not being in control or losing the illusion of control.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know.
see that. Yeah. I think sometimes too is like you almost over hustle because a lot of your self-worth is entangled with how much you produce. And once you stop producing, you start to feel like, well, am I still
Yeah.
valuable? Do
Right.
people still am I still a human that has value, you know? And so it's hard to even take a vacation away from the hustle because you're right. You start to feel like this is what keeps me grounded in society, and this is what keeps everyone entertained and focused on me. And if
Right.
I don't do this and I stop doing it, then crickets, you know? Like,
yeah.
you
Like I think when you were talking about this, you mentioned like taking a month off
Yeah.
earlier. I think that might be my biggest fear. Like I was
Yeah.
like, what if I just took a month off?
Yeah. Well, then what happens?
And then I was like, oh.
What happens when?
I actually sort of did that with the podcast last year.
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I also did learn that like, I already have like my self-worth kind of like wrapped up in the art. I shouldn't put more of it wrapped up in like doing this.
Yeah.
I should do it because I like doing it. And it's true. I like doing it. I like getting to these points in this conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like we're like exploring all these nuances of like psychology and creativity and
Yeah.
how it like validates us in this weird way.
Yeah. It can be real soul crushing, you know, to feel that, you know, what we're super passionate about. I was talking with Jake about, you know, he did a painting, super excited about it, and then post it and didn't get all the love and encouragement.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then so you want to keep going down that route, but you feel like your fan base or people aren't excited with you. And then you're like, how do I keep, you know, going down this path when people aren't with me anymore? And, you know,
Yeah.
you're going there all alone now. Like,
Yeah. Or there's the illusion that you are.
yeah, you know, true. It's like, yeah, so we're kind of I don't know. I don't think this has ever happened before where we've had instant reactions to our work. You know, we used to be able to show small, select people our work, and they would gas us up and be like, "Oh wow, dude, your sketchbook! I just looked through all of it. It's amazing, you know."
Yeah.
And everywhere you go, you have your sketchbook, and you get to show people, and you know, and you're getting one-on-one interactions. And now it's like you post something, and it's just like the whole world's just tuned right into it, or they're not tuned into it, and they're like, "Nah, that's not great."
And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the work at all.
Yeah.
It's like there could just be less people on the platform that day, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Yeah, I think we assume too much, and we are kind of being, you know, as content creators, you know, pushed to the side, and if you don't post every day, the algorithm changes to where it's like you're not given the same love. If you don't post for a couple weeks and you post something, it's not a lot of love, and then when you start posting every day, you get more and more love because you're ingrained in that thing, you know. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be so like, I don't want to feel forced to like post stuff every day, you know. Like,
right.
if I don't have something good to say or post, I don't want to have to feel like I have to do that. Like,
right.
Instagram's not my employer, you know. Like,
exactly.
But as artists, we start to feel like, oh shit, this is where we work. You know, we work at Instagram, posting art on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that was a good deep dive into social media.
Yeah.
All the weird things it does to our brain.
I know. Then you want to get away from it because you don't want to be addicted to this technology. But then, as you get away from it, then you start to lose that.
Do you think you could take a month or
I'd
3 months
love to.
off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would honestly I would love to take 3 months to just like start really writing stories and getting away from this feeling of like having to post something all the time and having
Yeah.
to sell work all the time.
Well, so if we look at it like an addiction, I mean, like you put away alcohol for several years, right?
Yeah.
It's like you probably do the same thing with,
I could.
I'm saying that for anyone who feels trapped or
Yeah.
like they have to produce work or have to share something like over and over again. I don't know. That's just something that came to mind.
Dude, I think it would be hard at first, because you would just miss,
definitely.
just miss all the social interaction, or it's not really social interaction because it's kind of like
It's performative.
It's in a digital
yeah.
frontier,
Yeah.
where you feel like you have a bunch of friends, but at the end of the day, you feel really fucking alone. At the end of the day, you're scrolling through Instagram and Facebook, and you're like, I don't feel like I have anybody.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So Facebook's a place for lonely people to go. That's where we go to feel like we're at this giant party. Everybody's
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I don't know. I moved out to the mountains and I didn't have Wi-Fi on the other side of the property, and I started to notice my ability to hustle started to diminish. I had to go to town to get to the Wi-Fi, and as I got out there, I started chilling out too. It was like I got out of LA, I didn't hear the buzz. It was just crickets at night. I was like, dude, this is cool. Like I wasn't on my phone for a week, but then I realized, that there was somebody probably hoping that I would be on my phone, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
So my relationships I started to just kind of fall off the face of the earth to heal, and just to be one with nature and to commune with some other source and some other connection,
right. Yeah.
Whereas the Wi-Fi connection is a digital connection, and source connection is a whole other connection. I was getting connected to myself and the river and this new character and this new life and homesteading, and I was like, whoa, this is an interesting life. It's lonely, but I kind of started to enjoy the solitude of it.
Yeah.
And it got scary too, where it's just like, wow, this is crazy. I'm just out here in the dark alone, there's no buzz, there's no internet, there's no Netflix to watch or movies or entertainment to distract me from myself. So yeah, I started to really feel like that's where I started coming up with more ideas and stories. And I've always had this idea of kind of like Jack Kerouac going out to a cabin in the woods and writing a novel or something.
Yeah.
I think that you got to disconnect from social media to really sit and write a story.
Yeah.
You can write short stories on the road, but to really write, you got to really disconnect and disengage. And so, I mean, yeah.
I guess it's a balance, maybe treat it like a social media vacation or something.
Yeah.
Where take 2-3 weeks off and just.
Yeah, I think too is if you have somebody in your life, like a partner, you're out living on the land, and you have a companion, I don't think I would really need social media that much, because you have somebody, they're witnessing all these paintings you're doing, you're making dinner together, you're going to the river that day, you're going to go hiking. You have somebody in your life. And I think as an artist, sometimes we get too in love with our work and our solitude and don't know how to share that space. Or if you do meet somebody, do you become the duo,
Right, yeah.
Gabriel Welch and so they're always painting together and they're together.
Yeah.
And then you're not together and everybody wonders what happened. And so, your partner might be feeling that way too. I don't know how deep I want to get involved with you because you're so deep involved in your work. And, it's a hard thing, to have relationships and be an artist. I'm seeing some people making it work, and that's inspiring. I think I've always had that like little romantic idea, like, yeah, someday you'll find an artist and you guys will just making art all day and click, and like,
hey, it might happen.
Yeah,
might
happen.
Do you think that artists have to suffer to make good work?
Oh God. I think a lot of my best work comes from suffering, but I don't know if we have to.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of really beautiful work came from when I just met somebody and we were falling in love. I felt like we were really on this beautiful new trajectory, and now that's over and I have this painting and I have to finish it alone,
Yeah.
And so that sucks. But I'm going to suffer through finishing that painting. That's suffering,
Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful and it's going to be a great work of art. I wish suffering didn't have to be the ingredient to do that. I wish it could have just all been joy and love and passion and romance, and that could have been the fuel and the fire to finish that piece, but didn't work out that way, so.
Well, I think everybody suffers, right? Whether you're an artist or not.
Suffering is just the way of the life,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that, you don't necessarily have to destroy yourself. Like, if you take that idea of, like, oh, I have to suffer to make great art, you can, like, put your, like, self-care on the back burner.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say that you have to suffer, because
right.
I think a lot of great art can come from if you're in a really healthy relationship and everything's good and you have some kids and you're happy in life and your work is a reflection of that happiness. I don't think we have to suffer, but I do know that with great heartache and pain comes a strong urge to create. Whereas when I'm in love, I don't feel as much need to create because I'm creating this like beautiful, fun, happy world where we're exploring together and everything is great.
Yeah.
My work is kind of suffering now because I'm not really working as much, So I don't know, like you can get a little distracted with being too happy, and I don't know.
It's a delicate balance.
That's great, right? Then things don't work out and you go back to being sad again. And I think a lot of art is inspired by depression, like where else do you channel all this sadness,
Do you think it's healing?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think without art, how would you heal heartache? Whether it's through writing, a lot of people share memes and stuff that relate to their current heartache,
Yeah.
And that's good. But I think diving deep into, if you're not an artist, like just writing your ideas out, a lot of people can write. So, just processing trauma and things through art, writing, music, whatever.
Totally.
I think it's just a great way to also create something, like you're going to be fucked up for the next 3 months, 6 months, hurting. Might as well make something out of it. Might as well make a bunch of paintings and then sell it and then dry your tears with a bunch of cold hard cash, like what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like you just got to keep moving. You got to keep living.
Totally.
I think recently I'm just finding that like joy in traveling and adventuring alone again, being out here. Sometimes it's lonely and scary and I don't know what the hell I'm doing some days. And other days you're just like, dude, I'm at the top of a mountain, like here in Colorado. And the next day you're like, oh shit, my bank account's minus this. And then the next day you're back up on top again in the green, or life is no longer paycheck to paycheck. It's day to day. And each day you're creating this adventure for yourself and you're creating a new character. And, oh, you got this weird haircut. Okay. Now I'm this guy. And now I'm this blue dragon mermaid guy. And then after you explored the depths of those emotions, you're like, actually, I'm a graffiti Lone Star cowboy that goes and paints by himself all the time. And like, I'm just more on that cowboy vibe, And so, I just creating.
So you're like living in the moment, like
just
through
moment
the creation.
To moment.
Yeah.
There's this infinite now, and this is it, My mind, it loves to go back in the past and sort out all the pieces. I pick them up. I try to put them back together. At some point, it's like Tupac said, he's like, you just got to say, fuck it. Just let the pieces fall where they may and just fucking move on, you know? Like,
yeah.
You can't give CPR to these dead situations.
These memories, yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep wanting to resuscitate it and bring it back to life, but, you know, if people come back in your life years later, that was always meant to happen.
Yeah.
If they don't, that was meant to happen too. Like, you can't change the past. The past is fixed. And so I really worry about my mind always going back to the past, because I'm like, I know the past is fixed. And the time machine, that was one of the greatest lessons of H.G. Wells. That was another writer that
Really, yeah,
really
there we go.
He talked about going to the past and trying to fix something, and every time he went back to fix it, his wife kept dying, you know? And he's like, fuck, I can't go back and fix anything.
Right.
The past is fixed. It's done.
Yeah.
No matter what you do to change it, that's fixed. The only thing now you can do is the present moment or go deep into the future. So he goes so far into the future that, you know, humanity splits into these two separate species, which I almost kind of feel within our world is like, there's a lot of like, you know, the reptilians, you know, like these deep, dark warlocks that are trying to control humanity and make us do all these things. And then there's like the angelic lion beasts that are just like of the light. And there's always been a spiritual war, you know, like, and
good against evil.
Light and dark is always going to exist. I don't know. Like in Star Wars, they talked about, let's eradicate the Sith. But then once the Jedi eradicate the Sith and that's not bringing balance to the Force. That's eradicating the balance. Now there is no balance. It's all Jedi.
Right.
Tyranny of the Jedi, you know, like, so
you have to have that yin and yang.
You can't get rid of all the evil in the world and think that this is going to be a beautiful place after.
People would just start being evil again. They're like, this is boring, and they'll like smash some shit.
The most exciting characters are wrestling between their evil half and their good half.
Right.
You know? So those characters, Anakin Skywalker, like, oh, which way is he going to go? Is he going to be the good or the bad? You know, and then he goes to the dark side, but then later he fucking throws Palpatine over the fucking cliff or the side of the ledge, and he's like the hero again, you know? Like, it's cool to see that struggle within everybody, you know? And I think one of the worst things people can do is project their shadow onto somebody. I've had people do that to me where they're like, man, you're evil, you're this, you're dark. And it's like, and they see all this weird, dark, evil devil in me. And it's like, all right, I own that. Like, I know that. But also, too, don't forget how light I am and how much beauty and joy that I bring into the world, as much as like, and not, you know, I'm working to like not be that evil character, but I also recognize there's this red, dark, deep dragon inside of me that's like balances out the angel in me.
I feel like one of the scariest things is someone who doesn't recognize their dark side or just thinks that they're like the greatest person.
I know.
Yeah.
I just dealt with that, and it was scary. You know,
it's scary for them. It's scary for anyone who, you know, if they snap one day, it's like, look out, because they're not in touch with that and they don't know how.
This portrait's not looking very good, by the way, but
it looks like me.
I don't have an eraser. Wait, maybe I do. I was looking for that big eraser.
I've got one, I think.
So
are you over there using the phone?
I haven't been able to fix any of my mistakes.
Oh no. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, you're looking like a Cuban revolutionary at the moment, but
how do you know I'm not?
No, I don't know. Yeah, you might be.
I think it's the hat. You know.
The hat, dude. I was trying to get rid of this hat line.
A Che Guevara hat.
I wish you could not have the hat on, because then it would be easier to draw you without this hat.
Well, my hair is looking pretty wild, but hey.
All right, well, you can keep the hat on, but
let's put it back on.
No, you put that back on. No, I'll save the hair for last, because
Nice.
I think your hair is what gives you a lot of your character. So
with
the hat on, it was kind of.
I'm like a stealth character.
Yeah, you're looking like Che Guevara over here, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh,
but the flow hawk, you know, so the messy hair is what gives you your character.
For sure.
The hat is The hat also, it keeps changing angles, so it was
It's hard to
anyway.
foreshorten something that's going this way and then staring
I'm
right
trying
at
to focus
you.
on talking and make a good character. I would also love to like do some character penciled stuff. Like I was talking to you about doing stuff at Pearl Street or Santa Monica, and
Yeah,
like just setting up and doing characters would be such a cool like departure from everything else you're doing. And like who knows, you might get really skilled at drawing all these different faces because you don't know who's
exactly.
gonna step up to be drawn.
I think that's what Android did
Really?
actually.
Oh,
Like,
cool.
yeah, I think he
I
for
didn't know that.
like a year straight, he just went down to the Pearl Street
No
Mall here in
shit.
Boulder, and I don't know how long it was actually, but I
I love some of the sketches he does on the backs of canvas prints more than
so sick.
all the digital stuff. You know, I'm just like that's so cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
love
that's
traditional
where he
mediums.
got his chops.
Yeah.
You know, he's just practicing on real people, and yeah. So we're gonna come close to rounding this out here.
Oh no, I have so much
hour and a
more
half.
to talk about.
Yeah. What else? What could you think of anything off the top? We'll go there.
Yeah, I could, but
Mike, you got anything?
we're at an hour and a half.
Yeah. Well, so what kind of advice would you give like either your younger self or like a younger artist?
I think just if you have something you want to do, like when I was 10 years old, I remember walking down the street and making this promise to myself because I saw myself going into school. I saw how the adults behaved and how they started to like lack that ability to tune into their imagination and
Yeah.
become real rigid and not so friendly and nice and I was like, man, I don't want to lose this connection to this never wonderland, like
Yeah.
I can just go right in there anytime I want. And I just made a promise to myself as a kid, like, don't lose this. You have something and the world's going to try to take it away and beat it out of you and break you, but hold on to this because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my advice is just like make a pact with yourself to like not give up on any dreams you might have, and
Absolutely.
to feel like, hey, as a kid, like having a comic book dream, like that's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and it's taken me a long time to get there, but kind of gone all these different roads to get around. And, there's years where I didn't get to really make art like I do now, because I was working or doing this or that.
Sure.
And so, yeah, just if you want to do something, just develop a strong work ethic, like if you've worked at a juice shop or a coffee place, just remember when you go to wake up, clock in mentally, clock into work, make it work all day. If you want to be an artist, you gotta remember how it feels to work at a job where you're working 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
you're getting a little lunch break, you do this, and then also now you're working for yourself, so now 8 hours a day turns into 12, 16 hours a day sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on how hard you want to work.
Totally.
But when you work for yourself, you can work as hard as you want and you'll get rewarded for it. You can work harder at Taco Bell, but you're going to get
No one's
paid
giving you shit.
$5.45 an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
Back then that was
Yeah.
getting paid very little. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was actually just having this conversation with my girlfriend this morning to where I was saying like, and I need to be better about this first and foremost, treating it like a job
Yeah.
and like treating it like you have hours, you
Right.
know, like
Yeah.
10 a.m. That's when I start every day. You know?
Yeah.
Like this is, and I have to be at my job. And if we don't get to walk the dog by that time
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, then I'll take a break later in the day and take care of that. But
Yes.
yeah, it's just one of those things that it's like, it's hard for even the artists to wrap their heads around because at least for me, this is my experience. Like part of the experience of being an artist is like, cool, now I have all this freedom. I don't have to go to Taco Bell. I don't have to, do work that I don't like. But the real freedom comes in like this discipline in a way.
Yeah, discipline is the true freedom. So I know a lot of artists that, they're working shitty jobs. And it's like, until you reach that point where you're like, you're ready to abandon that work world, you have to be ready to be that fucking boss for yourself and wake up and just put your work hat on. And an artist got to wear a lot of hats, you know?
Yeah.
But just like treat it like a job, to where it's like you wake up, you work, you know, you put in 8-10 hours, but then also learn how to clock out too.
Dude,
you know?
it's so important.
If you can't clock out, sometimes I can't clock out.
Yeah.
Eminem, he talked about going to the studio. He'd have a certain time. He'd want somebody to get there at 9 a.m. or whatever, work to a certain time, and then they'd be in the middle of vibing, and it's like, yeah, let's keep going. He's like, nope, this is it. This is the end of my day right here. I'm going to come back 9 a.m. or whatever. We're going to start again tomorrow, but this is the end of this day.
Right.
And so that's the next hard part that I'm learning, is like, how do I clock out of this? Because I love doing it. And
you have to reward
job.
yourself.
Yeah.
In a way, like, even though like art in itself is rewarding, like creation is rewarding, but like it's kind of like giving yourself a treat at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna go like relax and not care about Instagram.
Like today, like I woke up and my brain just instantly got into like this hustle mode where I'm like, all right, you auction this little canvas off, you're getting some more money coming in, you're paying your truck and insurance, and you're doing this. And then I woke up and I was working on this little piece, and I'm trying to finish 2 pieces with Johnny. And I'm over here working on 2 pieces with Cells, and I gotta get back to work with Jake and Steven, and I'm doing all these things. And then, you know, at some point you gotta be like, wait, hold on. Today I gotta meet up with Andrew at this time, and then I'm gonna paint for this long. But then it's like, oh, let's go hike up here. And I was like, I almost didn't even want to take the time away from painting to hike. But then you go hike up to the top of a mountain, you exercise your body, you get to see something beautiful, and like, that's good for your soul, you know? Like,
absolutely.
You got to do that, or else you get stuck into this like just hermit working in a little cave studio, and you don't let yourself out of this like cage, you know? And like, so yeah, it's something I see a lot of artists get real lazy, you know, like they're like, yeah, like it's this or that. And when I get around them, I notice that I help them to create and cultivate some more work ethic. It's like structure, you know, like let's get in. I got this much time to spend with you. We're going to make this, we're going to make this. And then they can feel the pressure I'm under. And then they start going, oh shit, this is how you
urgency
are a surviving artist, is you have a sense of like this many hours in a day, this much hours for painting, this much hours for leisure, you know, like, and it's good to take time off, but you know, it's also, if you want to be an artist, like it's not going to be easy. It's not fun and leisurely. It's, if anything, I work so much harder now than I ever did before, you know, because there is not really a lot of time off.
What's the meme now? It's like
no days off, you know. But
well, it's like you'll work for yourself and never work another day in your life.
Right.
It's like actually work for yourself and work like every single fucking day of your life.
Every fucking day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, amazing talk.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I could ramble on for days, but maybe I'll come back and see you some other time.
I'll get you back on here for sure. And that's at Omeka1. You find him on Instagram. If you don't already know, I'd be surprised if anyone listening doesn't already know. But Gabriel Welch, thank you, man.
If you don't know, now you know, ninja.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks, dude.
Well, that was good.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. See you next time, everybody.
Next time.
Peace. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. If you are interested in supporting the Patreon, that address is patreon.com/RTAF Podcast. And I want to thank all my patrons. You guys keep this engine running, and I couldn't do it without you. Go over there and check out the tiers I have available. It includes video, guest suggestions, patron-only posts, and some merchandise. Thank you again for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. Do all those little things that help get Artsy AF into the consciousness of more and more people. Shout.